This is a demonstration of how to use the Monash University Low FODMAP Diet app as a resource for determining which foods are low FODMAP and which foods are high FODMAP. Now this demonstration is done on an Android phone, but it will look fairly similar on an iPhone as well. The first thing we see here when we open the app is the About section, and this gives us more information about the low FODMAP diet. So if you click on the book that's there, you'll see a list of chapters that you can be reading through, and if you click on it, it will give you further information. So this first one, for instance, is just introducing what irritable bowel syndrome is about and telling you more about it. And if you click on each of the other chapters as you go through, it will tell you more about FODMAPs and how to follow a low FODMAP diet. Now, of course, you're already enrolled in getting started on the low FODMAP diet, and you'll find all of that information in other parts of this course. So if we go back to the main screen now, then we can see we've got different options here. So we have a guide, and that's what we'll go to next. The guide is probably where you'll spend most of your time on this app. And what you'll see to start with is we have a list of categories of foods. So up the top, some low FODMAP certified foods: bread, cereals, rice and pasta, vegetables, fruit, dairy, and so on. So a range of different foods that you can be looking at. And then as you go down further, you'll see some country-specific foods, and this is based on foods tested from the local cuisine of these particular countries. So you might find that useful too, depending on which country you live in. Now, what you'll see when you click on a particular category, such as fruit, is that we have a list of different types of fruits. And the first thing you see is the list of fruits in alphabetical order. And then on the right-hand side, we have these lights. And these are traffic lights because the Monash University system works on a traffic light system. So we have red, essentially means that it's very high in FODMAPs. Amber means that it's moderate in FODMAPs. And green means it's low in FODMAPs. And on a low FODMAP diet, you want to be eating foods that have green lights and that are low in FODMAPs. And you want to avoid anything that has an amber light or a red light and is therefore moderate or high in FODMAPs. So as an example, if we click on the clementine, which had a green traffic light, we see that green traffic light up the top, but we also see in here some different serving sizes. And we can see a standard serve or a medium clementine is 86 grams, and a half serve or half a medium clementine is 43 grams. Now, the other thing you'll notice here is that we've got different types of FODMAPs broken up. So we have the oligos, fructose, polyols, and lactose. And they are grouped together, so the oligos includes the fructans and the GOS, and the polyols includes sorbitol and mannitol. Now, because this was a green light food, we can see that we've got green lights for all of the different FODMAPs, and so we know that that's appropriate on a low FODMAP diet. Now, if, however, we look at coconut as a different example, we can see that this started off with an amber light. So when we were on the fruit section, it had an amber light, and so it may have looked like you had to avoid this on a low FODMAP diet. However, we do have two different serving sizes here for coconut, and the top one that we see here does have an amber light for polyols, and if we read the fine print, it tells us this serving size contains moderate amounts of the polyol sorbitol and intake should be limited. So we can't have this larger serving size of 1 cup of coconut. However, if we go down, we see that for half a serve of this fresh coconut, or half a cup, we have green lights for all of the different FODMAPs, which was in contrast to this one, this higher serve, which had an amber light for the polyols. So because we've got green lights for this particular serving size, you can have this serving size on a low FODMAP diet, even though on the main screen it had an amber light. So just to show you that again, we had an amber light here for coconut, but when we clicked on it, we were able to get more information about the different serving sizes and find out what we could or couldn't eat. Now this is a really important thing to understand because it's not just about what the traffic light says, it's also about the actual portion size. So it's really important that you dig down into it to make sure that you know what foods you can have and what portion sizes are appropriate, even if there's a red light or an amber light. Now, a really interesting example of this is something we see with avocado. So with avocado, we've got 3 serving sizes listed. Now, it started off with a red light telling us it was high in FODMAPs, but as we look at the serving sizes, we see firstly for a standard serve or half an avocado, which is equal to 80 grams. We have a red light for polyols. So this tells us this serving size contains high amounts of the polyol sorbitol, and intake should be avoided if you malabsorb sorbitol. So on the low FODMAP diet to begin with, in the elimination phase, we need to avoid anything with a red light. So we can't have this serving size. Then as we go down to the next serving size, half a serve of avocado or a quarter of an avocado or 40 grams has an amber serve for polyols, so it's got moderate amounts of sorbitol. So we still need to avoid this in this first phase of the low FODMAP diet because it's an amber light. But if we scroll down just that bit further to the final serve, which is a quarter of a serve or 1/8 of an avocado, which is equivalent to 20 grams, we can now see that all of the FODMAP lights are green, which means that this particular serving size is low FODMAP and therefore can be eaten on a low FODMAP diet. Now, a different type of example I want to show you we can see in the vegetables category. So if we go into vegetables and we're going to go down to zucchini, which is otherwise known as courgette in other areas of the world. But if we click on zucchini, firstly we see it's got a green light. When we click on it, it tells us it's low in FODMAPs. We've got 2 portion sizes here. One is quarter of a cup and one is half a cup, and they've both got green lights the whole way across. So it is low in FODMAPs at this serving of 66 grams. However, this is one of those examples of where we need to look at the fine print. So for instance, it says this serving size is low in FODMAPs and should be tolerated by most individuals with IBS. However, it goes on to say, avoid large servings greater than 100 grams per serve, which contain high amounts of the oligos fructans. So even though this has got a green light, it's only green light up to an appropriate serving size, but if you go past that serving size, it becomes high in FODMAPs and needs to be avoided on a low FODMAP diet. Now, you might say, I'm never going to eat 100 grams of zucchini in a single serve, and that might be the case. But some people like a lot of zucchini, for instance, if they like to have zucchini noodles or zoodles, as they're otherwise called. And in that case, it's actually very easy to eat 100 grams of zucchini in a single serve or even more than that. So it's about understanding your personal limitations and choices when it comes to how much of an ingredient you eat, but also making sure that even though it's got a green light, it doesn't necessarily mean you can eat loads and loads of it. It just means that you have to look a little bit more carefully to make sure that it doesn't have an upper limit. Now, to show you an example, not everything has that upper limit, and a really good example of that is carrots, which I'll find here somewhere. When we click on carrot, we can see in this particular case, we've got 2 servings listed. We have a medium carrot and half a carrot, and we've got green lights all across. Now, we see a different thing written here where it says, FODMAPs were not detected in this food. Eat freely and according to appetite. So that's quite different to what we saw for the zucchini, which told us that you had to be careful when the portion size became greater. So in this case, it doesn't matter if you eat twice the amount of carrot in a single meal, it's still going to be low FODMAP. So you do need to look at this extra information to be certain that you're sticking to your low FODMAP diet. The next thing I want to show you briefly is the low FODMAP certified foods. And if we click on this, these are the foods that Monash has tested as a complete product to see whether it's low in FODMAPs. And so we're starting off here with some breads, cereals, some condiments, and as you go through this you can see some examples. For instance, This creamy tomato sauce from Some Foods is available in Australia, so we see the country. And we have a marinara sauce from FODMAP, which is available in the United States. Now, if we click on it, for instance, this pasta sauce from Some Foods, it tells us that it's a Monash University low FODMAP certified product. So they're basically saying they've tested this brand and this particular variation and found it to be low in FODMAPs. And it tells us what a serving size is of this particular product that's low in FODMAPs. So we can see a standard serve or quarter of a jar, which is 125 grams, is low in FODMAPs. So it says that one serving is low in FODMAPs and should be tolerated by most individuals with IBS. Then as you go down, you'll see some information about the brand, and you can tap on that for more information, and in most cases that should send you to their website where you can get more information about where the products are available so that you know where you can buy it. So your task now is to get the Monash University Low FODMAP Diet app on your phone, because it will help you immensely when you're following the low FODMAP diet in order to tell which foods are low in FODMAPs and which are high in FODMAPs. And then when you have it on your phone, just play around with it a bit, clicking on the different categories and the different foods so that you can get a feel for how the traffic light system works, and also making sure you click on the foods themselves so that you can see the portion sizes to understand what is considered an appropriate portion size of that food and whether it has an upper limit when it comes to being low FODMAP, and so knowing what your maximum portion size is that you can handle for that particular food. And you should find that most of the information within the app is consistent with the food list that you were given already within the course. But do keep in mind that the Monash app is updated frequently, and so the information within the app is more reliable than the food list you've been given. So always trust that, because they do occasionally change things, and this is the best way to stay on top of the low FODMAP diet.